Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to the lesson number 4 of our Arabic alphabet series. Let's begin. Today we'll be learning about the next 3 letters of the Arabic alphabet. Jeem, Ha, Kha. Jeem, Ha, Kha. The bodies of Jeem, Ha and Kha are same. The only difference is the dots. So we see that Jeem has a dot at a different place, Ha has no dot at all, and Kha has a dot at a different place. Jeem corresponds to the English letter J. Now what this means is that sometimes to use the Arabic alphabets we need to find an equivalent of them in other languages. So in the English language the equivalent of Jeem, this Jeem over here, is J, the English letter J. Ha corresponds somewhat to the English letter H. Ha, this one, corresponds somewhat to the English letter H. This means that the English letter H has a similar sound to the Arabic letter Ha. Kha corresponds somewhat to the combination KH. There is no exact letter equivalent in English, so we have to use a combination, and that is called KH. We see that when I wrote this letter in English, I also used KH here. So Kha corresponds somewhat to the combination KH. In the previous slide, I told you that Jeem, Ha and Kha are having the equivalent letters and combination in the English language. But while pronouncing them in Arabic, there are some things that needed to be noted. Jeem corresponds exactly to the English letter J. Like I said earlier, Jeem and J have the same sound. Like in the word jet, J here is exactly the same for Jeem. J, 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 J. The both sounds are exactly the same. But when we come to Ha, we find it's a little bit more trickier. Ha is like H, except it sounds very deep and it comes from the middle of the throat. This means that the English letter H is very superficial and it has a very relaxed way of saying it. But in Arabic, they have a very deep way of saying it, so we find it from the middle of the throat. We have to get the Ha sound from the middle of the throat. It's not just like Ha. That's not how Ha is pronounced. The English letter H is pronounced with the chest, but the Arabic letter Ha is pronounced with the middle of the throat. This is because it's very deep, and in Arabic some pronunciations are extremely hard. For this we need to practice a lot so that our lungs open up and we be able to pronounce them nicely. Now the letter Kha doesn't actually have an equivalent sound in English. But when we need to represent the sound from other languages, we usually use a combination KH or CH. This means that Kha is not having any letter in English language. The sound of Kha is not like the sound of any other letter in English language. Because of this, we have to use combinations like KH or CH when we represent them in English language. So for the letter Kha, you see that even the pronouncing is very difficult. The Kha sound is very deep, just like the Ha, but it's also a little bit strong. This is why in Arabic, pronouncing the languages and the letters of the language is extremely important. It's not like English, where you do a superficial job and it's done. In Arabic, every single syllable you sound will make a difference in the word. That's why we need to practice a lot about this Ha and Kha, because these are the two main letters that are not found in any other languages, especially English language. So we have now looked at the next 3 letters of the Arabic language, Jeem, Ha and Kha. We learned how to pronounce them also. So now let us look at the 4 forms of Jeem, Ha and Kha. The letter Jeem, Ha and Kha are very similar to each other because they have the same body. The only difference is the dots. So we see that in each form they have the same body and the only difference between them are the dots. That's why it is always very important in the Arabic language to learn about the dots of the alphabets. The dots and the position of the dots are extremely important in order to learn the Arabic language. So first we see Jeem. Jeem has a kind of arc, lower arc, and it has an upper arc, and then a sleeping line. with a dot underneath. Then in the beginning, we see that Jeem loses its lower arc. This is because Jeem is connecting with another letter here. There is a letter over here which Jeem is connecting with. So for example, if I write Jamal, we see that there is Jeem here, which I can only identify because of the dot underneath it, and there is Meme here. So Jeem is connecting with the meme and it's losing the lower arc. If there was no meme, it would be like this, but it's losing this thing and it's coming here. It's connecting with the meme, so it's lost its lower arc. Similarly, in the middle, we see that Jeem again doesn't have the lower arc because it's having a letter here and then another letter connecting here. At the end, there's no letter here, so Jeem can have finally its full arc. And of course, it has an extension here because it's connecting with the letter previous to it. KHaa also has the same body structure, except that it has no dots. So in the beginning, it loses its lower arc. In the middle, it loses its lower arc again because it's connecting with a letter here and a letter here. And in the end, it has its lower arc because there's no letter here, and it has an extension only because it's connecting with the previous letter. KHaa also same. There is KHaa without the lower arc, KHaa in the middle without the lower arc, and KHaa at the end with the lower arc, and it is having an extension because it is connecting with the previous letter. And if you look again, as I told you before, the ending forms of many letters are similar to their beginning or their original forms. So the by itself version or the original version of many alphabets are similar to the ending form. So as we can see here, Jeem is looking as same as this, except with a little bit extension, of course. And KHaa is also looking the same as this KHaa, and KHaa again same as this KHaa. So the ending is extremely easy to identify. The only hard time you'll have is the middle and the beginning form, because over there the Jeem loses its, Jeem, KHaa or KHaa, they lose its form and they connect with the other letters. So now if you look at the Jeem, KHaa and KHaa, we see that at all places they are the same. They are looking the same thing. In the beginning they have the same form, in the middle they have the same shape, at the end also they have the same shape. So the only difference between them is in the dots. If there was no dots, it would have been impossible to identify the difference between Jeem, KHaa and KHaa, and that would have a great impact on the Arabic language. So learning the Arabic language dots are very, very crucial in the Arabic language. The alphabets have the dots designed to them, and they do not have any other type of dots. They only have one dot and their places, which should be noted very, very carefully in order to understand the Arabic language. So let us look at the differences in dots. Jeem has one dot underneath its body. So Jeem has one dot, one dot, one dot, one dot. Okay, we see that Jeem has one dot below it. KHaa has no dots at all. In fact, this is the hallmark of KHaa. It has no dot at all, which means that if you see a letter that looks very like the Jeem and it has no dots in a sentence, then know that it's a KHaa. KHaa has one dot above its body. There is a dot over here above, there's a dot over here, and there's a dot over here. And similarly, there's also a dot over here. So the difference between Jeem and KHaa can be very clearly seen. Jeem has a dot underneath and KHaa has a dot on top of its body. And KHaa, of course, has no dots at all. Use the shape of the body to identify these three letters. So again, in the Arabic language, you will not always be able to have so much time to think, okay, there's Jeem, it has an arc, it has not an arc, so there's no Jeem. You can't do that. So instead, the easiest way to identify the alphabets is by just memorizing this table and applying it in the normal Arabic text. So always remember the shape of these bodies, because that's what will help you in the Arabic text, and you will not have to waste much time in identifying the bodies. So today we learned about Jeem, KHaa and KHaa. We saw the pronunciation and their forms. Now let us look at some mistakes that we shouldn't make when we are learning the Arabic language. Firstly, do not confuse the Jeem with the Ba. They both have one dot underneath their body, but the shape of Jeem and Ba is completely different. Even as a word, they will look different. So this is Baitun. I'll put the dots. We can see that there is ba and then ya and then ta. And now this is Jamal. You can see that there is a difference. At the beginning of the word, there is Jeem over here. This is Jeem and this is ba. So the difference between these two letters have been clearly shown in this example. Ba is like more of a rectangular line, but Jeem is an angle. It has a completely different shape from Ba. Even at the beginning of the sentence form, it has a completely different shape from Ba. This is how we must differentiate between Ba and Jeem. Second mistake people make is that they confuse KHaa with other letters, because many other letters also have one dot over their body. This shouldn't happen because, as I showed here with Jeem and Ba, KHaa also has a unique shape in them. So KHaa and the other letters which you will learn should not be confused with each other, because the shape of KHaa will be totally different from the other letter shape. I hope today's lesson was beneficial to you. If you have any questions, be sure to comment below. I will try my best to answer them. If you like this video, please be sure to like, share and subscribe to this channel. Thank you.